So what is a ritual? A ritual is a sequence of events that we use to invoke from or for and for, excuse me. We use these sequence of events to invoke magic from our own self, okay? Or for our own self. Okay, it's to a spirit that you've already deified or from a spirit that you've already deified. It is a sequence of events that feeds into that. Okay, you're feeding the spirit or it's feeding you. Either way, there's an exchange. But the ritual, that is what invokes the energies to actually start moving, for the spirits to start moving. It's like when you cook meat, when you cook some good food and the family smells it, they come downstairs. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to utilize your events, the way you move, your rituals. They're a set sequence of actions that we use to invoke our own magic from or for a spirit already deified. Okay, and I'm gonna put that information up there because I know I like to rant it, I like to express it with hands, but that's what a ritual is, a sequence of events that we use to invoke our magic from or for a spirit already deified. Why do we do rituals? Mind you, you've already been doing rituals. You've been born doing a ritual. Every time you wake up and go back to bed, it's a ritual. Every time you go to work and get a coffee and smoke a cigarette, it's a ritual. So what are you feeding and what is getting fed? Those are the best questions that we can move forward in. Incantations, chants, songs, movements, dancing, all of these are ideas of how you can set forth your own ritual. And now you're already doing your own ritual. If you remember back in the day, you probably used to say, as I lay myself down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep, etc., etc. That's a ritual before you go to bed. It's not just a prayer, it's a ritual. You've done it consistently. It was a routine. You know what I mean? So why is this so important? It's because the more you enact on a ritual, the more you're feeding into a spirit, okay? And the more you feed into a spirit, the stronger it becomes, obviously. Especially if you're feeding it the food that you want it to feed it, and for the reasons you want to feed it. Especially if you have a set intention to the ritual. Because back in the day, I had no real intention saying my prayers on my way to bed. None. I just knew that I was supposed to do it. So there was no heart in it. There was no connection in it, per se. There was routine, activity, movement, and it most certainly fed that spirit, but there was no intent behind it. So it was very flaily, feeble, weak. You know, it could crumble, and it did, okay? Especially if there's no heart in it. So moving forward, this is why you want to continue with rituals. You want to work with cycles and routines. There's nothing wrong with them. They're there for a reason. Okay, it's about how you utilize them, and that's what a ritual is. That's why you want to create your own. You know what I mean? I have a ritual. I've done rituals for Santissima Muerte. I made her own floral tonic, and I washed her altar for 9 days in it. I washed her everything for 9 days. For my own, you know what I mean? It was a ritual. It was a purpose for it. It would feed into that spirit. Now, this is the part where inner alchemy takes place. This is where you start to deify these spirits and you start working with them. And now you can feed in them and they can pour back into you. You can actually do some exchanging. That's why rituals are important. You want to take care of these particular spirits, especially if you begin to navigate them, you begin to create a relationship with them. It's not necessarily like a gigapet. It's more like this is an extension of you, of your honest self. So when you're doing a ritual, that's why it takes so much intent, and you want to be able to give that to your spirits, yourself, your honest self. You want to be able to mean it. You want to be able to set that as the sight, as your goal. Okay. And yeah, these are very mundane words, but literally, you gotta choose something. When you set your set on a spirit and you decide to work on it and you decide to create a ritual and a relationship, a ritual is setting up the relationship. That's what a ritual is. You're hanging out. That's what the ritual is. You're doing a routine. You're creating this exchange between the energy and your and self and your vessel. Okay, this is where the relationships come in. This is why rituals and relationships are very close to each other. Honestly, they help you deal with these spirits. But a really interesting analogy that comes to mind when just working with rituals or spells in my spirits is like you're on the phone with your friend like every other day. That's more the ritual side. Your spirit say you're on the phone with your spirit, just talking, da 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 da. But when you're doing a spell, it's like, okay, bitch, it's time to get to work. We need to go fight this bitch. Then it's boom, boom, boom. But there's no way that spirit will go fight a bitch for you if you don't even fuck with that fucking spirit. That's why the cause and the care and the intent is all a part of it. You want to create this strong connection with the shit we find in ourselves. I'm not saying that things aren't supposed to die, but fall in love with the fact that things need to die. That part of yourself that needs to die so something else can be reborn. It's the relationship with how your spirit works, the relationship with self, knowing thyself. And this is the inner alchemy. This is all a part of it. This is how it all fits in. And this is what we're trying to work with. So rituals are the acknowledgement of the relationship that you have with these spirits. Okay, it's the acknowledgement of understanding and getting to know and working with and building any fucking relationship with these spirits. That's what rituals are for. So when you're doing these rituals to know thyself, to get to know these fragments of self, they're gonna show you. And there's no other way I can fucking say it correctly. They're gonna show you that they heard you. There's no way they didn't hear you. Okay, these are fragments of you. As long as you fucking knock on the door, open it, slam it, bust it open, do something. Trust me, they can't hide. But you have to go in the darkness. You have to go where you haven't gone before. So rituals are the acknowledgement of agreements. When working with certain deities, you find yourself bringing offerings, talking to them, lighting candles. You acknowledge your spirit's contracts, dealings, and much more. Bringing honor, power, and feeding into them. Rituals give life to your magic. Spells are being able to utilize your magic. Now, spells. This is where we utilize our magic. This is where we utilize what we fed in and what's been fed into us in this vessel as well. And this is where we get to actually, take some money out the bank, get some shit done. Okay? You gotta give in order to receive. And rituals is another way to give. A spell is when you can actually bank off of the feeding you've been doing. Okay, so a spell, you can actually say, for instance, you have that spirit that you've been feeding into. You already have that relationship. You need to fuck up somebody. Okay, you have a spirit that literally would destroy for you. Okay, now call that bitch up, doing a spell. Like, I'm gonna fuck up this person using my I know spirit I need to conjure and summon. That's that get shit rolling situation. So now that you fed into a spirit, now it can actually, give to you. You give to it, it gives to you. That relationship has a place for it to move now. Because you just can't, what's the purpose of just keep feeding into something and you can't fuck with it. We want to be able to utilize these parts of ourselves, these fragments of ourselves. So that's when we can actually utilize our magic. We can actually, reap what we've sown. So that's the beautiful part about spells. That's especially when you've done the ritual, when you've gotten to know these fragments of self. Now that you have a relationship, you can even work in your spells better. These bitches who just do a money spell real quick, it's weak shit. and don't do nothing with any spirits. It's weak. But if you have a money god, a money deity that you feed into, that you work with, and you've been feeding into this spirit, and you call upon it, boom, boom. And you know what the fuck it likes, you know what offerings it likes, you know what the fuck its rituals about, you know how to, turn up the romance. You know how to do that shit with that spirit. This is why intimate relationships with spirits are necessary. And rituals are a great way to amplify what you're already doing, your inner alchemy, your navigating of self, you're getting to know these spirits. That's why rituals are so important. So why is this so important in our craft? It's because the more we're going to be working with our intent and rituals and spells, it will help you navigate literally your own magic. When you're working through your vessel, it's important to understand which spirits you're fucking working with. Okay, so say for instance, you're doing a cleansing ritual for whatever reason. That means that you are deciding that there's going to be some spirits that stay and some spirits that go. But understanding what spirits you're working with will help you realize what the fuck you're letting go and what the fuck you're allowing to be there still. When doing rituals, you're going to understand more that you've already been working with so many spirits already, because there's so many simple rituals that are done consistently that aren't overlooked, that don't have any honest intent in there, or focus rather. So the more you can identify the rituals that you already are a part of, that's going to be an easier way for you to realize what spirits you're already working with. Okay, so that's why you want to dive more deeply into your rituals and how you're already doing them, how you're already implementing them, because again, you don't want to fall to the illusion. You want to be able to understand that the illusion is there, it's just not what it appears to be. So when you can understand what it appears to be, now you can actually fuck with it. Now you can have fun with it, because you don't want to be blind in your own light. That's the most sickening thing ever, being blind in your own shit. So you're already a part of many rituals, and you're already been a part of agreements and spells already. Okay? In contracts that you probably do not consciously can recall or understand that you've been a part of. That's why focusing on how you've already been doing rituals, how you've already been agreeing to spells, is a fundamental thing in beginning to the navigation of self. Because if you can find the spell that you're under, you can see how you're feeding it, the spirit, and you can see how to work with that spirit better. Because if you're just not giving it attention, if you're just not being more focused and direct and bringing order to your chaos, it's a simple situation. You want to be more detailed with your spirits. It's a lot of work. It's like having a shit ton of kids. Long story short, but they're all parts of you. So like I've said many a time, there is nothing new under the sun, but I've added a continuation onto there, which is there is something new under the moon. Okay, so look where things are hidden. The moon invokes that darkness. It invokes a small piece of light in the darkness, a focus point. There is something to be found under the moon. Go to your darkness. Go to your dark shit. Find where you've already been agreeing to these spells and following through on your rituals. Because that right there is going to help you. Flower technique, we've already been here. Flower technique, go backwards, go down, and figure out where this is even coming from. Who am I dealing with? What the fuck am I dealing with? So what is the purpose behind our offerings and our sacrifices? So what is so beautiful about a fucking offering and a sacrifice? They're symbols. These are the symbols. Like when you're dealing with an Indian sacrifice to Kali, and they sacrifice, or Durga rather, just Durga. They sacrifice honey, turmeric, milk, to the goddess Durga. And they have days of festivals representing that particular deity. That right there is a ritual. That right there is an example of the symbolism behind each particular offering and sacrifice to that god or that goddess. Okay, so it's the intent, again, going back to the intent behind it. It's the intent that allows it to be transmuted into an actual offering on a spiritual realm or a less denser realm. The mind is all, the universe is mental. It's the intent that allows it to be transformed into an actual offering on a whole other realm. Okay? Mind is all, universe is mental. The actual item is the symbol of it. So having these particular offerings and these particular sacrifices and gifts and honorings, it's about the intent. So when you have the honey and turmeric for Durga, it's not the fact that it's honey and turmeric. It's the fact that it's the turmeric that allows her skin to glow like gold. You know, it's the honey because of the sweetness of her words and her work and how she moves and etc. etc. There's intent, there's symbolism behind it. So that's what we're catering to. So when you have, like, say for instance, there's this spell for invisibility, when you're working with Santeria, and it involves a hummingbird heart. All you need is something that identifies in that same way from you in creating your own craft. It's not to say that you can't use a hummingbird heart, but why a hummingbird heart? Why is that connected to invisibility to you? And this is why when you're creating your own craft, when you're creating your own potions and whatever the fuck you create for whatever intention you create it for, these particular offerings to the ritual or the spell, whatever the fuck it is, needs to be taken into account. You need to have some type of connection for it. How does it aid the spell? How does this add to your ritual? How is this purposeful for me? So identifying what you're doing and giving it meaning. That's what we want. We want to break apart and design our craft. This is it. It doesn't have to be a hummingbird heart. It could be a fucking dried up cat turd. Okay? I don't fucking know. It could be kitty litter because it hides the smell of the cat shit. It has to mean something to you, is my point. Okay? It doesn't have to be cat shit. So when summoning and conjuring spirits takes place, this is the fun part. Okay, I mean, it's all fun, honestly. So when your vessel is being able to conjure a spirit and you're able to summon a spirit as well, both are different, similar but different. You're able to work with that characteristic. So, see, I was working with the Barons, okay, and I wanted to summon or conjure the Barons. It's very understandable, especially if you work in any type of Yoruba craft, that they like spicy shit. They like peppers and the spiciest, most stupid spicy shit. Stupid spicy. You get that 21 pepper sauce juice or liquor form. It's a beautiful offering, and you just take a shot, boom, conjure a nigga. But the thing is, you have to get to know that spirit. You know, they even like all the motherfucking peppers in the first place. But it's not the pepper. It's the symbol behind it. It's the fire. It's the uncomfortability. But the fact that it's still edible. The fact that it will destroy your insides. But you can still fuck with it. It's audacity. This pepper juice. Whatever, but my point is, you can conjure with the symbol of what brings forth that deity. So it's not the peppers, but it's the intent behind the peppers. It's the drinking, it's the sacrificing of this once you drink it to be able to summon and conjure that spirit. Okay, so sacrifice, offerings are necessary. First off, but to summon means, and to conjure means you had the relationship Okay, you've had the sacrifice and you continue to sacrifice because it's an ongoing relationship. It's like a friend saying, all right, bitch, we can beat this bitch up, but I need you to pick me up first. Yeah, sacrifice 5 minutes driving down the highway, but we gonna do it. It's like that's a relationship. So that's how I kind of have to see my spirits. It reflects that way for me. And I really hope that makes sense.